again and welcome to another episode of I Want to Talk About This Album. And today, I think for only the third time, as far as I can remember, this is only going to be the third episode ever that I've done an episode where I'm not going to be physically holding the record, as I do not have this record in any format, any physical format. I only have it in digital format. And it's Kiss. And by the way, I think the other two that I can remember are were the Bunions, Beefcake, maybe 2 years ago, and Cherry Poppin' Daddy's At the Pink Rat about a year ago. This is going to be the third one with no physical media to show. I kind of like having the physical media to show it. It makes it feel more like I have more of a connection with the album. But there's no way that I'm going to spend the money to buy this album. For one, it's expensive. Two, it's really not very good after listening to it a couple of times. And it is Kiss, off the Soundboard, San Antonio, Texas. I don't know if it's San Antonio or, I don't know, Paul Stanley of Kiss, he keeps calling it San Antone. And the guy who introduces them, you wanted the best, you got the best. He also says San Antone. So I don't know what these guys are talking about. Maybe they're not good in geography. And Paul Stanley has a geography story in the concert. So this is San Antone or San Antonio, Texas from December, I think it's December 3rd, December 5th, 1985, something like that. From the Asylum Tour. This is their, I don't know how many they have in this series of Off the Soundboard. Off the Soundboard, it's called. It's a bunch of old vault recordings from, they had one from Des Moines, Iowa, from 1977. These have all come out in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Des Moines, Iowa, one from Tokyo, one from Donington, that was from the reunion tour. God, did they ever miss out a chance to put out a live, I guess at that point it would have been a live 4 from the reunion tour. There's one or two other ones, but this is the latest one. The reason I'm doing this today, well, the reason I didn't buy it, as I said, it's very, very expensive. And I'm not interested in any of these off the Soundboard things other than, to listen to them probably once and then that's it. I download it and I listen to it. Can't imagine I'll spend too much time with it, and they're very expensive. And this one particularly, it's 3 records, and I don't know if it came out on CD or not, but I know the vinyl version of it is 3 records, which is ridiculous, which I will try to remember to get to as I continue. So it's very, very expensive, $50, $60, $70, maybe even more. I don't know, maybe $100. I have no idea. But and it's not so good. So, but the reason that I did download it is because I was interested in this era. There's not too much live, whether audio or video of Kiss from this era, from the Asylum Tour. And the reason I did choose to talk about it, I thought if I'm going to put myself through the suffering of listening to it, then I should at least make the effort to talk about it. But I did see the Asylum Tour. It was my first time seeing Kiss. And since I don't have a record or a CD, a physical product to show you, I do have a prop to satisfy your quench or your need, your insatiation for me holding physical products. And there's my ticket stub from the Kiss Asylum Tour. This was April 8th, 1986. That's 39 years ago. Today, as I record this, it's Monday, April 7th. I don't know when this episode is going to be up. It won't be tomorrow on the anniversary because I have another video planned, which at this point you've already seen. It was Chopito, Cuernavaca. But I always remember this date, April 8th. And my first Kiss show at this point, I've been a Kiss fan for 10 years. I got Kiss Alive in 1976. So this was my 10-year anniversary of being a Kiss fan. And I did go, oh, now look at this. This was also on a Tuesday, April 8th. Tomorrow is also Tuesday, April 8th. Oh my God, the chances of it being a Tuesday, April 8th, I think that just comes along once in a lifetime, no? That a certain day of the year falls on a certain day of the week. That's incredible. Tuesday, April 8th, 1986. And now it's going to be Tuesday, April 8th, 2025. It's probably the first time since this happened 39 years ago. Unbelievable coincidence, isn't it? There's another reason to talk about it. And by the way, this was promoted by Q107 Metal Hour. Q107 was a great radio station in Toronto. I guess still is. I don't know if it's great. But the Metal Hour and Molson Music. So, about this album, yeah, it sucks. It's really not very good. At this point, Kiss was I guess this started with the Animalized tour, or as Paul Stanley calls it, Tua, and or maybe even Lick It Up, I'm not sure, but they were playing really fast. That I know was a conscious decision. Gene Simmons, I think it was him. I think Paul was against it, but Gene said, no, we want to be, of course, Gene was always trying to fit in with what the trend was at the time and what other bands were doing. Gene wanted to be like them, and this was a time when metal was pretty big, and I guess Gene wanted to be more metal, and he thought that playing fast, No No No, which was on Crazy Nights, which was the album after Asylum, I think was a pretty clear example of that, of Gene wanting to be, he just thought faster was better. I don't know. But these Kiss songs, almost all of them, and I'll talk about it when I do the track by track, they're just played too fast, and they lose their groove or their essence, their nuance, their, the subtleties of them. They just don't have the feeling. They're just too fast. Now another thing, this album sucks, though it doesn't suck as much as Peter Criss's 1978 solo album. And despite what this guy Mike Pratt says, he's always saying, I don't know what he's talking about. He says, I slander Peter Criss. I don't remember ever saying anything bad about Peter Criss ever, or about his solo album. I think this is the first time that I've mentioned it. But I will say good things about Peter Criss. Right now, Peter Criss, I think I've said this before, he's the best drummer for Kiss. Now, let me preface that by saying, well, it's too late to preface it. I don't care about musical talent. I don't think it's my position or anybody's position to judge musical talent. I don't care if this band has more talent than this band, or this musician has more talent than this musician. I don't care as long as it sounds good. So I don't really care if Eric Carr is more talented than Peter Criss. Maybe he is, I don't know. Gene Simmons says he is. Buried, his exact words were, Eric Carr buried Peter Criss as a drummer. I do not care. Jimmy Crackcorn. But man, those Kiss songs that I loved and grew up with in the 70s that Peter Criss played on, no Kiss songs after that, no era after that was as good as Kiss, despite Eric Carr having the massive drum kit. And I think when you're a teenager like I was, and maybe I did, maybe I was when I was a teenager, I thought Eric Carr was great. He had the big hair, big drum kit, very, much more flashy and flamboyant and outgoing and, everything more than Peter Criss. But for me, nobody beats Peter Criss in Kiss. Everybody beats Peter Criss when it comes to making a solo album, or any album, as Peter Criss's 1978 solo is the worst album ever created in the history of recorded music. But I guess over the years, I've kind of grown to, I don't know about Eric Carr, his drumming. He's impressive to look at, but again, I'm not judging his talent. To me, it's the same with, I've talked about this before, Filthy Animal Taylor in Motorhead, and then he was replaced by, well, forget about Pete Gill, but, obviously for many, many years by Mickey D. And Lemmy said the same thing about Mickey D that Gene Simmons said about Eric Carr, that they both, destroyed their previous drummer. And maybe that's right. They're musicians, I'm not. They're in the band, I'm not. So I guess their opinion is somehow more valid than mine. I don't know. But I think Filthy Taylor's drumming in Motorhead was much more suited to their music than Mickey D's. I mean, their music was very different by the time Mickey D joined. Steven Adler and Matt Sorum, I think, is another example of that. That's Steven Adler, Appetite for an Onion, is one of my favorite drum albums ever. I love the drumming on that album. Not in terms of talent, to me it just sounds great. I love it, and maybe it's because I love that album. And I think it's the same thing with Kiss here, with Eric Carr on drums instead of Peter Criss. And this was also a point where, and I'll talk about this if I get to the track by track, Kiss was really into swearing and cursing at this point. That also started, that was I think another trend, yet another trend that Kiss was hopping onto. Other bands were cursing everything, and Kiss started that. Maybe it was on the Lick It Up tour, I'm not sure, and they did continue this on the Asylum tour. And visually, this was maybe the weirdest Kiss had ever looked. When I listen to this, I don't care about that, but I mean, I did see that tour, and you know what they look like on that tour. Very, very strange indeed. Yeah, I guess that doesn't really matter. It doesn't have anything to do with this album, but I just thought I would point that out as well. So that's what I think about this record. I will go through the track by track. Now this is a long one. I filled up an entire page. There's 2 albums there. This was Wings, Venus and Mars, and Rolling Stones, Undercover the Night. Two albums there. This is, and it's only maybe 85-90% of the page. This is the entire page is filled up with Kiss, and it's not even that long. That's another thing. Before I get to the track by track, this is so stupid. I don't know why this is a triple album, other than to, I don't know if it's to if that enticed people. Maybe it would turn some people off. This album, and I listened to it twice today, and it's hard to listen to because it's an hour, and this is one, I don't normally look this up, but I did look this up. It is an hour and 33 minutes, and it is full concert from beginning to end. I get the idea that nothing was cut from it. The set list definitely was nothing to cut, and I don't usually, again, look into these things, but I did check this set list on set list, and it was the full set. Now, one difference, when I saw them on this tour, on April 8th, 1986, this was like 4 months after this show, there were a couple of differences. In this show that I'm going to talk about, they did Under the Gun and I Love It Loud. Sorry, not I Love It Loud, I Still Love You. When I saw them, they had dropped those two and replaced them with Calling Dr. Love and what was the other one? I can't remember, but there were two songs that were different. Anyway, so this whole song, if you look at it, I mean, as tracks, it's 18 tracks. That's very, very deceiving because realistically, it's only 13 songs. And this is one of the terrible, terrible things about this album, maybe this concert too, 4 solos. Each of these guys took a solo, if you want to call it that. Paul, Gene, Eric, and Bruce all had a solo. Paul Stanley's solo is just pathetic. I'll talk about that when I get to it. So out of the 18 tracks, you take away 4, and you're left with 14. There's another stupid song that counts as a track, even though it's only 19 seconds. So maybe they thought, if we just put as 13 songs, nobody's going to buy this. 13 songs on 3 records, nobody's going to buy it. But then when you say 18 songs, you go, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll buy it. But pretty short concert, only 13 songs. So I will get to the track by track now. And the first one is, it's Detroit Rock City. It's a fine version of it. It's okay. I should say, Kiss, mostly, there are a few mistakes on here, and it's far from perfect. Some farther from perfect than others. But, I mean, they generally play pretty well. Paul and Gene vocally sound great. A few cracks here and there, but quite good. So Detroit Rock City, it is pretty good, but it's too fast. It's not horribly fast, but it is faster than it should be, I think. Next is Fits Like a Glove. Now, before we get to Fits Like a Glove, Paul Stanley had his little stage rap, and I wrote part of it down here. Now, I don't know, he referenced this 3 times. I guess I'm assuming what happened was there were, back then there were a lot of people that didn't like rock and roll, and they were protesting it, and there was the Washington Wives and the PMRC and the religious people, especially in the United States, and everybody was against rock and roll and were, causing a ruckus outside concert venues and things like that. And I guess based on Paul Stanley's banter, this is what was happening, because he references that 3 times. Now he starts by saying, and I think this is word for word, but I wrote it down. By the way, if you want to see how long these notes are, look at this. For the first time ever in my life, I think I'm the first person ever in the world to do this, I actually extinguished a pen. I didn't use the entire pen. I've had this pen for a couple of years. I don't think I've ever finished a pen in my life. You get a pen and you write with it, and then you lose it before you ever get a chance to finish the ink. Have you ever finished a pen? Drop a comment in the comment section down below if you've ever finished a pen. I think that's an urban myth that pens ever get finished, but I did, and this is my my toe pen. It's comfortable to write with because it kind of, the toe balances it out. So I will bid adieu to this pen, and I had to switch to my Metallica pen to finish off. You can see, isn't this interesting? This is real insight. You can see maybe where the ink changed. It got a little bit lighter when I switched to the Metallica pen. What the fuck am I talking about? Anyway, so Fits Like a Glove. Paul Stanley says, you got some people here in town who don't know what the fuck is going on. You got some people in this town who are afraid of rock and roll. I guess there were protesters. I tell you what's funny is that people walking around that forget they were ever young. I say, fuck them, because we're not going away. Here's a little song. And he introduces a lot of, I gotta come down. He introduces a lot of songs with, here's a little song. He's always done that. And then he sings, and then they start Fits Like a Glove. Gene sounds really good, I think, on Fits Like a Glove. But it always bothered me on the Animalized Live Uncensored home video, which I watched religiously. That came out when I was like 15 years old. And oh my God, I used to watch that all the time. Loved it, knew every little thing about it. But it always kind of bothered me that, and I love Fits Like a Glove, which is from Lick It Up, which is my favorite. I don't like saying makeup or non-makeup. That's stupid. I think you should say, I see it as original lineup or non-original lineup, because the makeup has nothing to do with the music. So Lick It Up is my favorite non-original lineup album, and I love it. And I love Fits Like a Glove. And there's a great part in the middle, because when I go through her, it's just like a hot knife. And then he's supposed to say, through butter, and then the guitar comes in. But on the Animalize video, and I guess in that Tua, he never said it. He kind of waited for the crowd to say it. But I think it always failed, and it seems like it failed here too, because Fits Like a Glove, it's not a classic like, Detroit Rock City, Rock and Roll All Night, that everybody knew. So I think when he got to the part of, it's just like a hot knife, everybody just went, okay, continue, Gene. And then he didn't say it. So there was like this pause, and then Gene just stopped saying it. That always bothered me when I was a kid. Now I don't really care, but I was reminded when I listened to this today. But I like Fits Like a Glove, and that's actually one of maybe the best song on this album, just because that is a fast song to begin with, and they don't play it. I don't think they play it any faster in this version. So Fits Like a Glove is pretty good. Next is Cold Gin. Now here's another Paul story. This is so stupid, and again, I think this is word for word. He's talking about, I was at the venue, I was here at the arena, the venue, the stadium, whatever it is, before, and I don't know what happened. He's talking to a guy, he's going to the stage, and he says, this guy comes up to me and says, Paul, why do you call this the Asylum Tour? I said, pal, look out there, these people are fucking crazy out there. Well, that's stupid. First of all, that conversation never happened. Just like the conversation about a lot of you people there like to drink vodka and orange juice. Nobody told Paul Stanley that. It's fake news. It's a bullshit story. That conversation didn't take place. They called it the Asylum Tour because they were on the tour promoting the album called Asylum. Maybe a better question that this guy could have asked Paul Stanley is, why did you call the album Asylum? Then Paul Stanley could have said, because we're crazy. And then we're on this tour, and it's called the Asylum Tour because we're promoting the album Asylum, and this fake guy would have been more understanding. But strange thing to bring up as an intro. And then he also said, now here's a little song again. Agani does the same thing. He's been doing the same shit for fucking years. And I guess at the time it was still pretty new for me. But I mean now, well not now, but when Kiss was last playing shows. I know they're playing this show in Las Vegas in November. He's been doing, God, just stop. There's nothing wrong with just playing a song. You don't have to introduce every song. So, he says, people like, in this song, introduction, people like to take a little taste of alcohol. Okay, you're going to play Cold Gin. I understand that. You don't have to tell me what it's about. Nobody in that crowd is going to be going, alcohol? What song could this be? Is he talking about what is it? I Still Love You? Is it I don't know, King of the Mountain? No, it's Cold Gin. And this is so stupid too. Paul Stanley, for some reason in his stage persona, I guess he feels the need to talk like street. He's a street hustler walking down the street. Somebody comes up to me one day. What is it in All Hell's Breaking Loose? Street hustler comes up to me one day, and I'm walking down the street minding my own business. And, he has this kind of tough persona, and his actual words here were so stupid, really, really stupid. He says, now, I'm not talking about no tequila, and then he kind of laughs, he chuckles. I'm not talking about no Southern Comfort. He just sounds ridiculous. That's really, really stupid. At the time, I guess I thought it was okay, or at the very least, it didn't bother me. Now I just think it sounds, this whole album is so, Kiss around this era, really, really bad, I think. I Can't Hear Ya, and then Cold Gin. And this is another, it's just too fast. It's missing the Kiss feeling of the original. All right, next is the Paul Stanley guitar solo. That's how this is on the track listing. Very, very generous to call it a guitar solo. It's just stupid. It's sloppy. It's the exact same thing except shortened, mercifully, from the Asylum or the Animalized tour. As I said, I used to watch that video all the time. It's the same thing. That was, I think, 2 or 3 minutes. The whole thing here is 70 seconds. And it's just tapping, and then like 10 seconds of just kind of a generic riff. Totally, completely unnecessary. And this one, I think, is the first of, and I'll try to bring them up as I do them. First example of, it just kills the momentum of the show. This is only the 4th song. They've only done 3 songs, and he's already done these long introductions to Fits Like a Glove and Cold Gin, and now he's doing this stupid 70-second guitar solo, and it really is 70 seconds. I'm not joking. The track is like 3 minutes. That's because he begins to tell more stupid stories. But his guitar solo, if you want to call it that, is 70 seconds. And now again, I think he goes back here to whoever the protesters were. And he says, when all those people who are making all that noise are gone, we're still going to be here. And then he does this is part of his solo. He does this stupid thing. Now this is something, even when I was a teenager, I thought I didn't like this. Dividing the crowd. This side is louder. Let me hear you over here. Let me hear you over here. Everybody at the back, down in the front, let me hear you. I always hated that crap. Always. I think I hate it more now than I did when I was a kid. It's just so stupid. It shouldn't divide us. We should be we should all be in union. We're all concert goers. We all love rock and roll, and he shouldn't divide us like that. And then the one crowd boos the other side. It's terrible, disgraceful. So that whole thing is like 4 minutes. Oh, and then he ends it with saying, and again, this is a quote, "We gonna have a problem tonight. We got more loud motherfuckers here than I thought." So this is his stage when he was calling people motherfuckers, and Gene had a couple of motherfuckers too, which I will, at least one I'll get to. All right, so the next song now is All Night. And there's a stupid little introduction to this too about, after he does the which side is louder. There's a word I need you to say, and that word is things like that. And it was cool to see, and I love All Night. I think it's an excellent song. I know it's stupid, but I do like it. And I like Asylum in general. This was cool to hear because the Asylum tour is not well documented at all. And I think other than this tour, I don't think they ever played again. Maybe one of these Kiss cruise shows, or I don't think they've ever done it as part of a regular tour. For sure they've never done it like on a regular basis. So I do like it, but again, it's too fast, and it's got a sing-along in the middle that really goes nowhere. It just really, the crowd doesn't really respond to it. Nothing. By the way, I did check their set list. They did Any Way You Slice It in the first, only 2 shows of this tour, and then they scrapped it. So I think only 2 ever performances of Any Way You Slice It, also from Asylum. Next is, God, and this they keep breaking up all the momentum. The Eric Carr drum solo's next. So there were only 5 songs. Well, no, only Detroit Rock City, Fits Like a Glove, Cold Gin, All Night, plus, so only 4 songs, and now a guitar solo, plus Paul Stanley, well, now a drum solo, Paul Stanley's guitar solo, Paul Stanley's little stupid stories and everything. Really, there's no momentum for this. There's no time to get, do 3 or 4 songs in a row to really get the crowd into it. Everybody's kind of up and down. I think it's terrible pace of this show. So Eric Carr drum solo, just garbage. So it's not talent. Again, I'm not judging his talent. It's just so boring. I've never liked solos. They're boring. Peter Criss's solo, Mike Pratt on Alive, just perfect. Very, very different time though. But Eric Carr's drum solo, it's boring. It kills the flow of the song. 4 songs, we're already on the 2nd solo. And then towards the end of the solo, he has those stupid electronic drums that were popular in 84, 85, 86, around there. And I guess Kiss was again just following one more trend. I guess just because you have the technology or the technology is there and is available doesn't mean that you should try it. So Eric Carr had these electronic drums towards the end of his solo, and they created kind of like a synthesizer effect. Couldn't care less about this drum solo. And then it's weird at the end, Gene, usually it's Paul who says, Eric Carr on the drums, Peter Criss on the drums, Ace Frehley lead guitar. This is Gene that says Eric Carr on the drums. I thought that was, that caught my attention. And then War Machine is next, and it's fast. Again, it's too fast. I think especially the whole thing. I was going to say, I don't know if it was the verse, the choruses. I think just the whole thing is fast. And it does have that same intro that they did War Machine on the previous tour, the Animalized tour. Eric Carr does that. His kind of drum solo goes into the drum introduction to War Machine. Next is I Still Love You. I don't like the song at all. I really don't like any version of it. I've never liked it and don't like it here. What else was there? So there's the studio version on Creatures of the Night, Alive 3, Unplugged, and Unplugged is an awesome, incredible album. And then this one, and I feel like Paul fucks up the intro. He's playing the guitar intro, and then I feel like right when his vocals are supposed to come in, I feel like he kind of loses track and fucks it up, then he stops, kind of starts all over. But kind of also boring too. Again, it's just, this is not a solo, but it's just one more kind of pause in the set. There's no energy to it. Too many ups and downs, peaks and valleys, you might say. And then they go the opposite direction. They go from I Still Love You to Under the Gun, which this is cool that they did it because they only did this, as far as I know, on Animalized tour and Asylum tour. And so from that perspective, it's cool. There was another one of the Off the Soundboard series that was from, I can't remember what city, but it was Mark St. John, and he only played a handful of shows with Kiss. So Under the Gun is here. Yeah, it's cool that they did it. It sounds very, very sloppy. And that's a very, very fast song to begin with, so I don't think it's sped up any extra. But just overall, it sounds very, very sloppy. And then they kill everything again. Next is the Bruce Kulick guitar solo. And just when they're starting to get a little bit of momentum, here comes a good guitar solo that I don't care about. I think maybe back then people cared about it more. But again, leave a comment down in the comment section below. Do you like guitar solos? I think now they're terribly outdated, but even back then I didn't like them. So Bruce's guitar solo, and I should say about Bruce Kulick, not a judgment on him, nothing to do with talent. I didn't dislike him, but I've never particularly enjoyed him as a guitarist. He did have some great solos, including one on this album, which I'll try to remember to talk about. He did have some great solos. The acoustic solo from Forever comes to mind. But he didn't have, and maybe it was, a sign of the times, but he didn't have a particularly great tone, although that could be a Kiss thing rather than a Bruce Kulick thing. He didn't really have a style that stood out. I thought he was very awkward live. I always thought that. From the first time I saw him, he just seemed very uncomfortable and awkward. He got better as the years went on, but maybe great or better as a studio musician, but he didn't really have too much charisma live. And this solo, it's just boring. There was nothing to it. There was a little hint of No, 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 which is a terrible, horribly shitty song on the next album, Crazy Nights. I thought I hear a little, and there's tapping in here too. Everybody wanted to tap back then. I hear a little hint of No, 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 the intro of No, No, No in his solo. And I swear, now I know this is not true, but when I heard this, I thought, Jesus Christ, he's playing Cryonics by Slayer. Isn't it? Go listen to this record. But you can find it somewhere. And listen to Bruce Kulick's guitar solo. And I swear he's playing the melody of Cryonics by Slayer. I don't know. Weird. What else about this? Oh, and then another stupid thing. He's doing a solo. And then when I guess it gets towards the end, you hear Paul off, not off mic, but saying, Bruce, he's kind of interrupting. Bruce, hold on. There's a girl in the crowd. And I guess there is a girl in the crowd, but I'm sure the girl that Paul Stanley is referencing does not exist. And he says there's a girl in the crowd, and so he's telling Bruce Kulick, this girl likes you, and what do you think about that? So Bruce Kulick starts doing these stupid, wolf whistles on his guitar, and Paul is insisting or encouraging him louder and longer. And then Bruce Kulick keeps doing all these wolf whistles, horribly outdated and embarrassing, I would say. Next is Tears Are Falling. Strange here at the beginning of the song, or before it starts, Paul calls for he actually calls him my manservant. He really refers to his guitar tech, I guess. He says, I need my manservant to come out and switch guitars. I thought that was strange. To change his guitar. This is an excellent version. I don't think it was sped up. This is the one that I mentioned a few minutes ago. I love Bruce Kulick's solo in the original, and he plays it very, very well on this live version too. But it is, I can't say it's ruined. It's not strong enough to say that it's ruined. But again, the electronic drums come in at the end and they just sound so out of place and so unnecessary. But I do like Tears Are Falling. Next is, again, they're just bringing it down. Gene's bass solo. My God, this is the 4th solo and only 8 songs, 9 songs? Maybe not 9, I don't know. So Gene starts playing, and this is the exact same solo. Kiss, I think, was very lazy at this point. Gene's solo is the exact same one that he did on the Animalized home video and the Animalized tour, just like Paul's solo was the same as from the Animalized home video and tour. And so Gene starts playing a little bit, and then he says, and I've written this in quotes, so it's exact words, "Is this loud enough for you or what? Well, tell that fucker over there to turn it up. He didn't hear you. Say it again." And then I guess he says to the sound guy, "Do you hear what the bosses want?" He's referring to the fans as their bosses, because Gene and Paul love to say that the fans are really in control of Kiss, which is such bullshit. But yeah, again, Gene with the "tell that fucker over there." This is when Kiss was really, into saying fuck a lot. Pointless, and it kills the flow. It's another solo. It's the 4th solo. Stop it. Just stop. They could have played 3 or 4 more songs. And as I said, it's a short show. Next is I Love It Loud, and another one where Gene, as his solo ends and then the song comes in, he goes on the mic and he says, "Motherfuckers." And then he does the, "Oh yeah? Oh yeah? Well, all right." And he's still doing that. I think when he does his solo shows, I think he does it like that. Change it up, man. You've been doing the same shit for 40 years. Stop it. And it's funny because I'm sure there are people who love it. Probably Mike Pratt loves that crap. And other people, I don't like it at all. I think it's terrible. Same with Judas Priest. Rob Halford, how long has he been riding that motorcycle? Next is Love Gun. Now this had a long introduction. Stupid story. Very, very similar to Paul's story about going to the hospital on the Animalized tour, the Animalized home video. This time it wasn't a nurse, but it was a woman in his hotel. But he referenced again, I think, the protesters. I'm assuming or presuming, I'm not sure, that there were protesters. Again, he goes with his bad grammar. I guess he thinks it's cool to talk like a street thug or a street tough. It don't matter. He seriously said this. It don't matter what nobody says. We're going to keep coming back to see you no matter what. It don't matter what nobody says. Just stop trying so hard, Paul Stanley of Kiss. And then he tells this stupid story about a woman. He says he was walking in his hotel today. That's what Paul Stanley of Kiss does. He just walks around hotels. He wanders aimlessly. He says he was walking around the hotel and he saw a woman, and he said she had glasses, she had her hair up, and she had the biggest tits I've seen in a long time. I think he said that about the nurse too. Maybe the nurse changed professions and she became the teacher. But she says she's a teacher, and he says, "Well, what do you teach, sweetie?" And she says she's a geography teacher. And again, this woman doesn't exist. This conversation never happened. And she says she's a geography teacher. God, and he says something like, "I don't know much about geography, but I'm going to take you on a trip around the world." So fucking stupid. It's awful. It's so stupid. And then another part. She says, "I'm going to go back to my room. I'm going to go back to my hotel room and take a shower." And Paul Stanley says, well, in his story, he says, "Can I come?" And she says, "What?" And he says, "Can I come?" And she says, "As often as you want." Oh, fuck, just the worst. And then also, and then she takes off his shirt. She takes off his pants. Now, if you remember, he was wearing Levi's 501s. You know, those tight ones? That's what he says, those tight ones. In Animalized Live Uncensored video. And now the nurse in Animalized Live and Uncensored, she's undoing the, you know, their button fly. Remember when button fly was cool? And she's undoing the buttons, and he makes the same sound effects in here. For some reason, I've never heard these kind of buttons, you know, like this. Listen, there's no sound. There's no sound, but in Paul Stanley's world, these sounds make the sound of like that. So she undoes the first button, second button, third button. I don't know how many buttons are on his pants. And then what happens next? Oh my God, maybe the dumbest thing he says. He says, you know, because remember, she's a geography teacher, in case you've forgotten. And he says something like, I'm going to take you to Thailand. Not Thailand, Thailand. Do you get it? Thailand, something like that. Just the dumbest shit I've ever heard. And people think he's like the greatest frontman ever. And I love Kiss. They're my favorite band ever, but come on. Was there anything else? No, that's it. And then, of course, she pulls out, not in Animalized Live Uncensored, he says, that ain't no pistol. And in this one, I think she says it's a shotgun. Is that your shotgun? I would think a shotgun is better than a pistol for sure. But he says, no, it's not my shotgun, it's my... And then the crowd erupts and says, Love Gun. And he says, all right, Love Gun. And then they play it. And it's incredibly sloppy, very, very sloppy version of Love Gun. And again, it's fast and sloppy. It's not very good. Next is Rock and Roll All Night. Paul introduces it as the Rock and Roll National Anthem, which he's still, you know, I think for all the years after that, he always said that. Eric fucks up the intro here. He's playing the drums all along, and the part where it's supposed to go from just, and Paul's talking over the, you know, the drum intro to Rock and Roll Night, Paul's talking over that, and then when it reaches the point where the full band comes in, the band doesn't come in, but Eric Carr is still doing, and he fucks up, and Paul, I think at first he kind of tries to cover up. He says something like, and he's always been weird like that, and he's talked about this, how when they make mistakes, like he says, like somebody would fall over, so they would go and stand over him and play to make it look like that's part of the show. I don't know why it's such a big deal that you make mistakes. But anyway, so Eric fucked that up, and Paul Stanley, instead of just, you know, start again, he says something, we're going to stop that, because I think he starts to say, because you weren't loud enough, something like that. And then he just tells everybody, he says, okay, stop. And then he, I hate this expression, and this is the first time I've ever used it. I guess he throws Eric Carr under the bus, or maybe he throws shade at him. Those are two stupid expressions. And he kind of throws shade at Eric Carr, throws him under the bus by saying something like, he kind of does it in a nice way, but he's clearly saying, Eric fucked up, not us. He says something like, Eric loves to play on the offbeat, because he's jazzier. It sounds like jazz, something like that. And then they start the song again, and they play Rock and Roll All Night. And it's too fast. It's one more. Every song is too fast, except like Fits Like a Glove. I think Tears Are Falling. Too fast, Rock and Roll Night. And then Heaven's on Fire is next. Another stupid intro. If you skipped all these stupid solos, and I'm saying the word stupid a lot, stupid solos and stupid intros, you could have had another at least 3, maybe 4 or 5 songs. So he's getting the crowd to say, because, you know, in Heaven's on Fire, the chorus, he's trying to get the crowd to grunt along with it, and it sounds very, very strange. And it's an okay version, but once again, it's just too fast. Heaven's on Fire should not be this fast. And then the stupidest shit here. This is another example of the filler of them stretching it out to 18 tracks. They call this track "Oh Susanna." You know that old song from, I don't know when it's from. I guess it's like one of these public domain songs, "Oh Susanna." So it's listed as "Oh Susanna." They actually play, I wrote this down, they play 19 seconds of it. And no vocals, it's just 19 seconds of bullshit "Oh Susanna," and they count that as one track to pad the album, I guess. Completely pointless. And then the last song is Lick It Up. This is when they were closing with Lick It Up and not rock. Kind of strange, not closing with, Love Gun, Detroit Rock City, Rockin' All Night, something more bigger, but they closed with Lick It Up. Another horrible introduction. Paul is talking about how he starts by saying, and I think he's done this many, many times or did this on subsequent tours, how many people here like to put things in their mouth? And then he goes on to say, this is so nonsensical. You shouldn't lick it down, because if you lick it down, somebody's going to say to you, I don't want you to lick it down, I want you to lick it. And then the crowd, I guess, says up. And he says, don't lick it down, lick it. And the crowd says up. And then he says, lick it up. And they play the song. And guess what? It's very fast. And I don't like it. Yeah, so that's it. I really have no interest in ever listening to this record ever again. I would recommend that you go listen to it and tell me if you think, and I don't like to encourage comments. I like comments. I do like reading them. But I'm not one of these leave a comment down below guys. But really, if you've heard this record, am I off base here? Am I being too harsh on it? I'm sure there are people that would say, what is this guy talking about? Kiss is awesome. And they're maybe fanboys and they're going to, call me bad names and things like that. But honestly, this record this concert was embarrassingly bad. At the time, I'm sure it was fine. When I saw them when I was 16 years old on this tour, I'm sure I loved every minute of it. But looking back on it now, 39 years later, I don't like it at all. All right, so that's all. This is normally where I would pick it up and hold the record here and say this is Kiss off the Soundboard, but I'm not going to do that. But I will say that this was Kiss. Thank you for watching Kiss off the Soundboard. San Antonio, Texas, December, whatever the date is, 1985. Thank you. See ya.